about. You just hinted at the fact that you're likely to downgrade your assessment of the global economy again next week. How close are we at this point to a global recession?
What we're seeing is slowing down in all large economies. Eurozone because of Russia cutting gas supplies. China because of COVID restrictions and the property sector. US still holding better, but momentum is slowing down. Why? Because interest rates are starting to compress demand and also to weigh on investments. And in this environment, inevitably the world economy is also slowing down. We are calculating that for 1/3 of the world economy, this year and next year, there would be 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, and that the risks of recession have gone up. Would it be possible to avoid it? Of course, if monetary and fiscal policy act appropriately, we might not see a global recession. But Sarah, even if there is no recession in some countries, for hundreds of millions of people, it would feel like that.
Absolutely. You mentioned the U.S. If you're going to define recession by 2 negative quarters of GDP, then the U.S. is in one, isn't it?
Well, the question is whether we are looking at a global recession. And for that, we want to see growth, or no, we do not want to see, but we may see growth going down to 1%. And then we are in a situation when the world is in deeper buy things. But you see how mortgage rates are swinging up. That is going to have impact on the housing market. Already is having some impact on the housing market. So we would see this slowing down of demand inevitably. But let me say that as clearly as I can. This is a price to pay to bring inflation down that is worth paying. Because if inflation is a runaway train, then the consequences for both growth and people dramatic.
So the question is whether enough has been done. If you were Fed Chair Powell, what would you do right now?
Carefully watch the numbers, because he has the path he has to walk is very, very narrow. If he doesn't tighten enough, inflation may the anchor. If he tightens too much, there could be recession. So Chair Powell is doing his best to watch the parameters in the economy to calibrate what he does. And I have trust that he would take the right make the right call.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think. And we have the head of the IMF saying that we're having a global slowdown. And guys, we know the globe right now is in a recession. Over the next 2 years, the globe is going to be in a Great Depression. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. Now, she wouldn't answer the question whether the U.S. was in a recession because we had 2 straight quarters of negative GDP. And we know when the numbers come out, there will be 3 straight, because we know Jerome is not letting us foot off the gas. All the Fed members say that we are far away from pausing. Every last one of them. And now we have Kevin O'Leary says stop printing money. We printed all this money. What did they expect? And we know how the billionaires and these fund managers do. They come out with the truth when everything is coming to an end. Because with these midterms, we know the Republicans are going to take over. And they're going to be doing some cutting and slashing. We know the NWO does what? They cause the problem. Wait for the reaction and run in with the solution. And we know they printed all this money, 20% of all money in existence in 1 year, to destroy this current legacy market, so then therefore they can give the rise to the 4th Industrial Revolution, where the robots, algorithms, and drones take over the economy, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, because he knows. When it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
The economy is sending us a lot of mixed signals. I mean, it always does. We look at a lot of data of the labor market, of GDP, of wages, et cetera. But now, more than at any time in my experience at the Fed, almost 7 years, the signals are wildly divergent. So I mentioned First 2 quarters of GDP showed negative growth. Typically you say, hey, there's a recession. But typically a recession comes with widespread job losses. The job market was humming over the course of this year, creating a lot of jobs. So that suggests we were not in a recession in the first half of this year. So one of the challenges, though, we got these mixed signals, and then as Gene just hinted at, monetary policy takes a couple of years to work its way fully into the system to have its full effect. So some parts of the economy that you all deal with a lot, monetary policy affects it right away. So the housing market, monetary policy affects the housing market really fast because of mortgage rates. So mortgage rates went from around 3 to almost as high as 7 over the course of this year. That is slamming the brakes on the housing market. But other parts of the economy, it's going to take much longer to work its way through. It's going to take longer to work its way through to wages. It's going to take longer to work its way through to food prices and other parts of the economy that are not quite so interest rate sensitive. It will have an effect, but as you indicated, it's going to take some time. So the question is, we've done a lot of tightening. There's a lot of tightening that still has to work its way through the economy. As Gene was hinting at, maybe we've done enough. And if we keep going, maybe we'll end up doing too much and overshooting because of these lags. That is absolutely a risk, but the challenge is we're seeing almost no evidence that underlying inflation has peaked or is on its way down. And so for a year now, we've been wrong on inflation. We kept thinking, hey, it's transitory. I said that. We kept thinking these supply chains are going to heal. People are going to come off the sidelines. People are going to stop buying goods because they're now buying services again. All of that has not happened nearly as quickly as we thought. And so I am not comfortable saying we're just going to pause until we see some actual evidence that the underlying inflation, so things like wage growth, things like services inflation, these things that are sticky, commodity prices move up and down, but underlying inflation like wages and services tend to be stickier. We're not seeing any evidence yet that those things are moving in the right direction. And so for me, until I see some evidence that underlying inflation has solidly peaked and is hopefully headed back down, I'm not ready to declare a pause. I think we're quite a ways away from a pause.
I have a question about this narrative of inflation, which nobody seems to ask. You print $6.8 trillion in 30 months, then more spending bills. What the hell do you think was going to happen?
You're surprised.
Of course there's going to be inflation. Maybe the answer is stop printing money. I mean, whatever the bill is called, whatever inflation, this act, that act, that's all. Stop printing money.
Or spending.
Yeah, and if you don't want inflation, stop printing money. It's that simple. So I think after the midterms, I don't know what's going to happen, but my guess is there'll be no more bills about anything.
That's $31 trillion we need to print.
Except, no economy on earth has ever done what we did in 30 months, ever. And then, oh my goodness, we have inflation? Well, no kidding, we have inflation. Now you can turn back that clock a little bit by just stop spending.
Why is a dollar? Dollar should be worthless. It's not. It's all-time highs. Gold's at 1,600.
At times of war and risk, the default currency is the U.S. dollar. And it's going, if this bill gets passed on the Stablecoin Transparency Act, the dollar is going to continue to be more valuable. And that is going to mark up soon. That's a big one.
We're going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort. And China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They've seen this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
Most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID 33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.